Did you know that half of all cancers can actually be prevented? And one of the most powerful things you can do right now to lower your chances of getting cancer is simply changing what you eat every single day. I know that sounds almost too simple, but the science really does back this up. In my years of working with patients, I have seen over and over again how much food choices matter when it comes to cancer. There are four major groups of foods that directly feed cancer cells, and today I want to walk you through exactly which ones to stay away from, and the simple eating plan that I personally give my own patients to help starve cancer cells, strengthen the immune system, and bring down inflammation throughout the body. Now, here is the big problem with the food we eat today and why it matters so much when we are talking about cancer. For a cancer cell to stay alive, grow bigger, and spread to other parts of the body, it needs four specific things. It needs fuel, and that fuel usually comes in the form of glucose, which is basically sugar. It also needs ongoing inflammation inside the body, certain signals that tell it to keep growing, like the hormones insulin and IGF-1, and it needs a blood supply so that it can keep getting the nutrients it needs to survive. That process of building a new blood supply is called angiogenesis. The scary part is that many of the everyday foods people eat without thinking are actually supporting each one of these steps that help cancer grow and spread. Now, most people I talk to are worried about things like sugar, red meat, or pesticides when it comes to cancer. And while those things do matter, there is one group of foods that I believe is doing the most hidden damage, and people are eating it every single day without even realizing it because they actually think these foods are healthy. This group of foods is ultra-processed emulsifiers. Now, emulsifiers are chemicals that get added to packaged and processed foods to make them creamier and smoother, and to help the ingredients stay mixed together. And once you start looking, you will find them absolutely everywhere. They show up in protein bars, dairy-free milks, ice creams, coffee creamers, gluten-free products, bottled salad dressings, and even some yogurts and high-protein snacks that people buy thinking they are making a healthy choice. So here is why this matters so much and why I tell every single one of my patients to watch out for these ingredients. There are two specific emulsifiers called polysorbate 80 and carboxymethylcellulose, which is also known as CMC, that have been shown again and again in research studies to trigger inflammation, break down the protective barrier in the gut, and increase the growth of tumors in animal studies. And here is what makes this really concerning. Your gut lining is supposed to be tight and sealed and very protective. It acts like a gatekeeper, carefully choosing what gets through and what does not. These emulsifiers go in and dissolve the thin layer of mucus that lines your gut and protects it. When that mucus layer is gone, bacteria and other harmful byproducts that are supposed to stay inside the gut get too close to your immune cells. Your immune system then reacts and tries to fight back, and this creates a state of ongoing low-grade inflammation throughout the body. On top of that, it causes changes in your metabolism and shifts in the bacteria that live in your gut, your microbiome. All of these things together create exactly the kind of environment that cancer cells love to live and grow in. To put it simply, emulsifiers do not cause cancer directly on their own, but what they do is create the conditions in your body where cancer cells can thrive. If cancer is the spark that starts a fire, then emulsifiers are what dry out the forest and make that fire spread so much faster and so much wider. So let me share with you exactly what I tell my patients about how to lower their exposure to these harmful ingredients. The first thing is to start reading food labels every time you shop. You want to look out for specific names on the ingredient list. These include polysorbate 80, polysorbate 60, carboxymethylcellulose, cellulose gum, carrageenan, and mono and diglycerides. If you see any of these names on a food label, I want you to put that item back on the shelf and walk away from it. The second thing is to start choosing simpler alternatives. For example, if you drink plant-based milk, go for oat milk or almond milk that only has 3 to 5 ingredients in total. Use heavy cream or half and half instead of artificial creamers that are loaded with additives. Make your own simple vinaigrette at home instead of buying bottled salad dressings. And when you are buying protein bars, look for ones that are made with ingredients you can actually recognize and pronounce out loud. The third tip I love to share with my patients is what I personally call the grandma rule. Think about your grandmother, especially if she was someone who loved to cook and knew her way around the kitchen. She probably knew quite a few ingredients very well. So here is the rule. If your grandmother would not recognize an ingredient written on the back of a food label, then your gut probably will not recognize it either. And honestly, following just this one simple rule alone can dramatically bring down the level of inflammation in your body. And as I always remind my patients, inflammation is the main engine that cancer cells use to keep growing. Now, there is something else I want to talk about because the problem with our modern food system is that food can actually become harmful long before it ever reaches your kitchen or your plate. One of the most powerful natural cancer-causing substances that we have ever discovered comes from something that most people never even think about. It is a specific type of mold toxin called aflatoxins. Aflatoxins form when certain crops are stored in warm and humid conditions, especially when the moisture in the storage environment is not properly controlled. These toxins tend to show up most commonly in peanuts, pistachios, almonds, walnuts, corn, and grains. And I want to be very clear about this because I do not want anyone walking away with the wrong idea. These foods are not bad for you. Nuts are not the problem. The reason these foods show up on this list is simply because they are more vulnerable to mold growth during the storage and transportation process. I want to say this clearly and directly because I see a lot of confusion about it. Nuts themselves do not cause cancer. I want to say that one more time because it really is that important. Nuts themselves do not cause cancer. It is contaminated nuts that are the concern. And the risk of contamination goes up significantly when you are buying imported nut mixes, bulk nuts from bins at the store, nut butters like almond butter from suppliers that do not have strong quality control, or grains that have been stored without proper temperature management. Aflatoxins are dangerous because they go directly into your body and damage your DNA, and they also overload your liver's natural detox system. This is why long-term exposure to aflatoxins is specifically linked to a higher risk of liver cancer. But again, the key word here is exposure, not complete avoidance. This is not about never eating another nut in your life. It is about being smart and choosing the right nuts. Buy from trusted companies that source their nuts from dry climates where mold is less likely to grow. Store your nuts in the refrigerator or the freezer to keep them fresh and free of mold. Try to use them within about a month after you first open the bag. And if you like your nuts roasted, go ahead and roast them because while roasting does not completely eliminate aflatoxins, it does reduce them somewhat. One of the biggest issues I see with the modern diet, and this is something I talk with my patients about constantly, is how extremely heavy it is in carbohydrates. And the real problem with eating a lot of carbs, especially all at once, is that your body turns them directly into sugar. And this matters enormously when we are talking about cancer, because cancer cells do not just like sugar. They actually depend on it to survive and grow. And I am not just talking about table sugar or candy here. I am talking about the glucose that your body produces when you eat everyday foods like white bread, pasta, breakfast cereals, pastries, soda, sweetened drinks, fruit juices, and candy. This whole process is connected to something called the Warburg Effect, which is a well-known phenomenon in cancer biology where cancer cells burn through sugar incredibly fast, even when there is plenty of oxygen available. Glucose becomes the default fuel that cancer cells run on. Let me give you an analogy that I use with my patients to explain this in a way that is easy to picture. Think of the way most healthy cells in your body create energy like stacking Lego bricks. They receive the right signals from the body, They stack the bricks neatly and in the right order, they follow the design, and once the design is complete, they stop. Cancer cells also use Lego bricks to build energy, but they stack them in all the wrong orders, creating something completely chaotic and nothing like what the body intended. And that chaotic stacking only happens when those cancer cells are getting fed sugar. But here is where it gets even more serious. Sugar does not just act as the fuel that powers this chaotic building process. It also raises the levels of hormones and growth signals in the body, specifically insulin and IGF-1, that tell those cancer cells to keep going. Going back to the Lego picture, the sugar causes the cancer cells to start stacking the bricks out of order, and then the insulin and IGF-1 that come from all that sugar keep telling the cancer cells to stack more and more, faster and faster, never stopping. Eventually, you end up with a massive chaotic tower that the body simply cannot break down or get rid of. And that is essentially how a tumor forms and grows. What makes this even more alarming is that some cancer cells, breast cancer cells in particular, have been found to have up to 6 times more insulin receptors on their surface than normal healthy cells do. The cancer is literally designed and programmed to take advantage of this system. This means that when you eat a diet that is high in sugar, you are sending much stronger growth signals directly to cancer cells than you are to the healthy cells in your body. But here is the good news that I love sharing with my patients, because this is not a hopeless situation at all. You do not have to give up all carbohydrates forever. The goal is simply to start choosing the right kinds of carbohydrates, the ones that fuel your healthy cells and not the cancer cells. The way to do this is by swapping out high glycemic carbs for low glycemic ones. That means switching white bread for whole grain or sprouted bread. Instead of pasta, try chickpeas, lentils, or quinoa. Replace sugary breakfast cereals with oats and fresh berries. And swap out pastries for Greek yogurt with berries. In general, you want to cut back on added sugars wherever you can, which means eating fewer pastries, cookies, and sugary drinks like soda, sweet tea, and energy drinks. Choose whole food carbohydrates that contain fiber, because fiber slows down digestion and keeps your blood sugar from spiking sharply. Great examples of these are berries, beans, and quinoa. And for anyone out there who loves their soda, and I say pop because I grew up in the Midwest, so that word is just part of me, try making the switch to unsweetened tea, sparkling water, or even diet soda when you really need that fizzy fix. The bottom line is this: you do not need to remove every single carbohydrate from your life. You just need to start choosing the ones that are working for you, not for the cancer cells. Now, there is one more thing I really need to talk about, because it is one of the biggest misconceptions I run into all the time, and it is one that I feel very strongly about as a doctor. A lot of people believe that drinking alcohol in moderation is completely safe and nothing to worry about. But from a cancer perspective, alcohol has been officially classified as a Group 1 carcinogen. That puts it in the same category as tobacco and asbestos. Now, I want to be careful here, because I am not saying that drinking a glass of wine is the same as smoking a pack of cigarettes every day. That is not what this classification means. What it does mean is that there is a clear and well-established connection between drinking alcohol and developing cancer, and that connection has been proven beyond reasonable doubt. Even small amounts of alcohol raise the risk of colon cancer, breast cancer, liver cancer, and esophageal cancer. The main reason for this is what happens inside your body when it processes alcohol. When your body breaks down alcohol, it converts it into a chemical called acetaldehyde, which directly damages your DNA and causes inflammation. Alcohol also interferes with your body's ability to repair damaged DNA, drains your body of important nutrients like B vitamins, throws off your hormone balance, and actually acts like a solvent inside your body, which makes other cancer-causing substances even more harmful to your tissues than they would normally be. In other words, alcohol does not just cause damage on its own. it also makes your entire body more vulnerable and more susceptible to damage from other sources as well. And yes, even just one drink per day has been shown in research to raise the risk of certain cancers, with breast cancer being particularly notable in this regard. But I want to be very clear about something. This is not about perfection. This is not about guilt. And this is absolutely not about telling you that you can never enjoy a drink again for the rest of your life. What it is about is understanding one very important truth. When it comes to cancer risk, drinking less is always better than drinking more. Even a shift as simple as cutting back from 8 drinks a week to 4 drinks a week can make a genuinely meaningful difference in your overall cancer risk over time. Small changes, made consistently, really do add up to significant protection for your body.